forensic science students. I am Mr. Williams, and this is going to be lecture 2 for toxicology. Make sure you've gotten all of your information studied up and you have completed all of your assignments and your quiz on the first lecture before you start this one, okay? So, we're going to talk about an instance real fast, a little local color, a little something that has happened in our community that is related to toxicology, okay? And so we're going to talk about the Park Hill neighborhood. So the Park Hill neighborhood is a neighborhood that is just west of Old Louisville, and it's about just a little bit northwest of University of Louisville. So let's pull up Google Maps here. Okay, here's Google Maps. Here's the Park Hill neighborhood. If we zoom out to the city of Louisville, okay, there's the city of Louisville, and over here would be Western High School. Okay, little reference for you. And just to show you something cool, here is an image of our class where we made paper roller coasters in physics class. This was a fun class. Enjoyed them a lot. Okay, so we've seen the city of Louisville, we've seen Western High School, and now we're seeing the Park Hill neighborhood. All right. So what is important about the Park Hill neighborhood? Well, let me show you some things. All right, so I went to a satellite view of the Park Hill neighborhood. Over here is Central Park. Okay, that's where the St. James Art Fair kind of centers around. But you will see right here in the middle of Park Hill, there is this area, right? There's no houses here. It looks like there are some old buildings. In fact, there are, and a lot of them have been demolished and they've been tore down. Well, this used to be a arsenic poison factory. So you're thinking to yourself, why would there be an arsenic poison factory? Well, they use it for things such as rat poison. And so it was a way to be able to kill rodents or nuisance wildlife that you didn't want around. Well, in the manufacture of these arsenic poisons that were manufactured just to, kill nuisance animals, well, the ground got contaminated because they were always hauling in arsenic. And, over the course of 50 years, somebody spills a bag here or something got dumped there. I'm not really sure, but the whole area is contaminated with arsenic. Well, we would love for that just to stay right there and to not go around to the neighborhoods. But the sad fact is these houses that are around these arsenic plants, this old arsenic plant, they have been contaminated as it rains and weather and dust and whatever it just happens. It migrates to the local area. And unfortunately, this means that the residents of this area are being exposed to some of these toxins. And in this article by WDRB, this was from January of 2014, so it was a while back. They're saying there's abnormal levels of arsenic found in 2 blackleaf residents. And so this blackleaf, that was the name of the old factory. And so these are people that were in the Park Hill neighborhood and they're just calling it blackleaf residents. All right, so they say, residents hope to learn just how serious the problem is during an important meeting Saturday morning. U of L has tested some 50 people who live near the abandoned, contaminated blackleaf plant. Now those results are back. Marvin Hayes has already received the bad news. They were off the chart. Let's just put it like that. He says that he and his wife had tested positive for high levels of arsenic. The test results are high, and I'm afraid of that because I don't know what's coming down the line, he said. Hayes lives right next door to the plant. And I'll read one more sentence. It was abandoned nearly 30 years ago, but the property still contains a toxic mix of chemicals which have seeped into the surrounding neighborhood. So that is what we are discussing about, okay? And so these people, based upon where they live, because I'm guessing that property values are low, and so rent's low, and it's low cost to live there. But sometimes things may not be all as they seem. So um, this is an example of why toxicology is important and to understand what is going on. And so let's think about this. The coroner is an elected official in many parts of the United States and is responsible for determining causes of death. Okay, so somebody dies, they're like, I don't know, something's weird about this. And so he or she is the person that figures it out. So think about this also. High crime rates have been linked to low levels of education. Describe how an entire community could suffer from a lack of basic understanding of chemistry and biology based on these two facts. Well, people are uneducated, for example. Well, that has been linked to higher crime rates for whatever reason. I'm not going to get into the details of that, but that is something that there is a connection with. Okay, but also, if people are uneducated about chemistry and biology, they may not make a wise decision about who is elected as coroner. Okay, many people don't even know what a coroner is. And so, if a coroner who's been elected doesn't have that background of chemistry and biology, would they be able to recognize when there are unique types of deaths, maybe due to unusual types of poisonings? So it's just something to think about. All right, so this was in our reading. And so it's something important to note here also. So there are 4 ways that you can be exposed to toxins that we're going to talk about. One, ingesting them through the gastrointestinal system. That means your digestive system. That means you're eating them. You can inhale them into your lungs, so you're breathing it. It can be injected into your bloodstream, either through a syringe or an IV, or walking and picking up trash on the side of the road, and you get stuck with a dirty needle that might be trash. Or it can be absorbed through the skin, like a nicotine patch. And there's some chemical weapons that get on your skin. They can kill you, and there's some drugs that are in liquid form, and they can just go straight through your skin. Important to know those 4. Toxic substances can be classified by how people are exposed to them. Also important. They can be you can be exposed to them intentionally to treat an illness or relieve pain. They can be exposed to them accidentally by overdose or harmful combination. They could also be exposed to them deliberately as a suicide attempt or inflict harm or death upon others. So intentionally, it's like, oh man, well, how many of these extra strength headache medicines am I supposed to take? I don't know. It's a bad headache. Take 5. That could be like dangerous. It could be accidentally by overdose or harmful combination, as we saw in the Anna Nicole Smith case that we read in class. Or it could be deliberately suicide attempt, like I just want to eat a bunch because I'm depressed and can't cope with life in a healthy way. Toxicity is the extent to which a substance is poisonous and is affected by many factors. Okay, that's important. That was in our reading, and that was a definition that we said was going to be important. Okay, so one factor about how toxic something could be the dosage, how much is taken. Okay, so how much of something can determine whether or not it's toxic or healthy, like water. Okay, if you drink enough water, that's great. But it is possible to drink so much water that you would die. And there are news stories about how people have done that in water drinking contests. It was dangerous and killed people. Then there is a duration. That is the frequency and length of exposure. So the duration is if you take this pain medication because you had your wisdom teeth taken out, how long is that going to be effective before I'm going to need to take more? Okay, 3, how it was taken. That can be ingested, inhaled, injected, or absorbed. Okay, so um, let me think of an example here. Let's just say alcohol. Okay, alcohol is toxic. My opinion is that no one should be drinking alcohol. It's just not healthy for you. However, okay, people ingest it. They could drink alcohol, all right, and it'll have a certain effect. But if you take that same amount of alcohol and you injected it into your veins, that would be a very, very different situation. It'd be very, very toxic. Same thing with water. If you injected pure water into your veins, it would probably kill you and make all of your blood cells burst. And then there's interactions, other substances in the body. There could be a combination that make it toxic, like in the Anna Nicole Smith case that we read about. And so the first poison that we're going to talk about is arsenic. Okay, and so this is the same thing that was in the black leaf plant in the Park Hill neighborhood from that article we read. Arsenic is an odorless and tasteless poison. Okay, it doesn't taste like anything and it doesn't smell like anything. And exposure to it can cause many health problems. Being exposed to low levels for a long time can change the color of your skin, cause corns, small warts, stomach pain, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, numbness in hands and feet, partial paralysis, blindness, and a variety of cancers. That is some gross stuff. Exposure to high levels of arsenic can cause death. And so we're seeing a couple of images here. One, it looks like somebody has lots of little freckles on their hands all the way to the left. That's reminiscent of arsenic poisoning. There's something called Mees lines, where you see those white lines all the way like straight across from your fingernails. That has to do with arsenic poison. And so, yeah, and the cancer risks on the right, you can see is lung, bladder, kidney, and liver cancers. And so it's some bad stuff. And so through much of the 19th century, a third, that's 1/3, that's 33% of all criminal cases of poisoning involved arsenic. One reason for it, for its popularity, was simply its availability. It's the major ingredient in rat poison. Okay, rat poison is 99.9% food, but it's the 0.1% that's poisonous that kills you. Okay, arsenic is also one of the many dangerous chemicals in tobacco smoke. Yep. Yeah, there's a chemist. He was called Marsh. So he created this test called Marsh test. And it was just a method to detect arsenic, and it was the first use of toxicology in a jury trial. And so he figured out how to test for it, and he was able to use it in poisoning cases. Okay, cyanide. Okay, this stuff is really bad. Hydrogen cyanide is a colorless gas. It's faint, bitter almond color. It's some people can smell it, some people can't. It's a genetic thing. Don't fully understand it, but it will smell like almonds. It's irritating to the respiratory tract. It causes headache, weakness, confusion, rapid difficulty breathing, convulsions, coma, death. Right? If you're exposed to it in small amounts over a long period of time, you're having a large thyroid, you'll be tired all the time, nervous instability, colic, you just fussy all the time, and well, it's flammable also. And so cyanide is rare, but a potentially deadly poison. It works by making the body unable to use life-sustaining oxygen. And that's because it binds with your hemoglobin, and it chemically combines to your blood to where oxygen can't connect to it anymore. And so we said already that it's described as having a bitter almond smell, but does not always give off an odor. And not everyone can detect this odor, like I said, because it is a genetic trait on whether or not you can do that. Okay, and here is an example of a bioterrorism agent, ricin, R-I-C-I-N, ricin. It's derived from beans of the castor oil plant. Yeah, you can get castor oil plant beans at Walmart. You plant them in the ground, and then squirrels will leave your garden alone because they can recognize for some reason that it's poisonous. It's lethal in humans in very small quantities, enters the cells of the body and prevents them from making necessary proteins, causing cell death. The victim would be dead within a few hours. A poisonous protein in the castor oil bean is called Ricinus communis. That would be the name of the bean, not the poisonous protein. It enters the body. It can be inhaled as a mist or a powder. It can be injected in the body or it can be ingested as food or drink. And that's what a castor bean would look like on the left. They kind of remind me of large ticks. All right, final couple more slides. For heavy metals are metal compounds such as arsenic, we talked about that, lead and mercury are very poisonous and are the most common heavy metal toxins. And they're often used for suicides and more commonly homicides. Not a good way to go. All right, for lead, if you're exposed to lead, you'll have nausea, abdominal pain, insomnia, headache, weight loss, constipation, anemia, kidney problems, vomiting, blue, discoloration along the gum line, seizures, coma, death. If you get acute poisoning from mercury, it means you get a lot fast. You can get it from inhalation causing flu-like symptoms, muscle aches and stomach upset. Chronic poisoning causes irritability, personality changes, headache, memory and balance problems, abdominal pain, nausea, vomiting, damage to the gums. It should be mouth and teeth. Long-term exposure can cause death. Wow, that sounds like just about anything. So some heavy metals such as cobalt, copper, iron, manganese, and zinc are essential in health in trace amounts. And so um, those heavy metals will be in your vitamins. But others are non-essential and can be harmful to health in excessive amounts. These include cadmium, antimony, chromium, mercury, lead, arsenic. The last three, mercury, lead, and arsenic, being the most common in cases of heavy metal toxicity. All right, our last slide. And so there are two types of poisonings. We're going to classify them in two different ways. All right, expect you to see this on the quiz. One is acute poisoning, and that involves high doses over a short period of time. And so examples of this would be cyanide, which would produce immediate symptoms. Chronic poisoning involves lower doses over long periods of times. And so this would be mercury and lead, and the symptoms develop gradually. If you live in an old house, then you might even have actual lead pipes because they didn't always know it was very poisonous. And we got a little, did you know down here is poisoning causes less than 0.5% of all homicides. Accidental drug overdoses are much more common. All right, guys, that's it for today. Make sure you stay up to date with your assignments. Get everything in on time, because if you get behind, you will just be running. You'll be like starting a race late and still be expected to finish at the same time. You don't want to do that. So guys, have a nice day. Take care and goodbye.